Well, hello everybody. Pastor Randy here. Welcome to Making It Simple. This is the Tuesday edition. Coming to you a little bit later in the day. Been a very busy day for me, trying to get some things done that need to be done, and looking to a busy week. I've got several assignments that just have to be taken care of and several obligations, but that's neither here nor there for you. That's all for me to get taken care of. But certainly wanted to get together today as we continue our messaging here from the book of John and our conversation. One of the questions that I'd like for us to ponder on today, maybe the question, what is your source? Now, in the world of reporting, or in the world of news, or any of those kind of things, we may hear that question. We may hear that analogy is, what is your source? In other words, where did you hear that? Where did you receive that information from? The reason that matters is the credibility of the source, the reliability of the source, the truth and the honesty of the source. Because, as we all know, many things today fall into none of those categories: credible, honest, true, or whatever. Thus the saying fake news. Again, I realize that kind of turned into a political thing, and it certainly turned into even in some ways a comedy thing. But it's quite disturbing, to be honest with you. In fact, I was having a conversation with a dear friend today, and we were talking about that, and the near breathless reporting around, certainly around our nation. I don't know about the world. I guess I can't really say that. Maybe that's true too, about certain things, and it could be all kinds of things. I don't really want to narrow it down to one category. But what we sometimes don't realize is the reporting differs from place to place. I mean, I get calls from friends and relatives from other states asking me about something that is happening here where I live that they heard on their reporting, and it's not even close to being true. It's not even in the ballpark of truth. Why are those things said? What is your source? Where did you get that? When we think about our own personal lives, when we get back to the understanding of our foundational principles, the things that we really build our life on, the things that we really stake everything on. We stake our reputation, our witness, our testimonies, our everything, our credibility, everything. What is our source? When Jesus was talking to the group that he's talking with here, he brought that into question. See, because they, as I've been talking about, they based their source and their ideology and their teaching and their demeanor and their justifications solely on their heritage, their lineage. As they would say, Abraham is our father. But Jesus said, but that's not true. And he wasn't speaking in the sense of challenging their bloodline descent, because that may or may not have been correct depending on who it was in the family, but in the principle aspect. He's saying, you say that, you claim that, however, your actions don't back that up. Your attitude is not what Abraham's attitude would be. Your action and your thoughts and your processing of what you want to do to me, well, that's not from Abraham at all, because that's not how he acts. That's not how he acted when he was obedient and served God and did the things that God asked him to do. So I challenge you on that, is basically what he was saying. And they rebutted that. They had a fit, in other words, that they didn't like that being challenged, but he had a valid point, because they're saying we're strict adherents of the law. And Jesus called them on it. He says, but doesn't your law tell you you shouldn't kill? Yet still, that's exactly what you want to do to me. You don't want to just run me out of town. You want to kill me. You want to take my life from me. And all I've done is tell you the truth. That's the passage that he said. That's what he said. He said, I shared this with you. I gave this to you. And you want to kill me because you didn't want to hear what I had to share. You didn't want to hear what I had to say to you. And all I did was tell you the truth. Seems pretty innocent, doesn't it? It seems pretty harmless in the sense of the exposure of what it was, the information of what it was that he gave them. Here's the truth. You know, I could share with you right now, the sun is starting to go down. It's a little cloudy. Looks like we got some rain coming. That's true. Should that anger anybody? It wouldn't make any sense. I'm wearing a red shirt. Does that anger somebody? I don't know. I mean, maybe if somebody doesn't like red. Do we see how foolish those arguments could be? Because we shared something that's true. But yet still we see today that is instantly labeled as something other than what it is. It could be absolutely 1,000% true in every aspect. Yet still someone may call it into question. Someone may be offended by that. Someone may say, well, that's one-sided, and that's not fair to everybody. The truth is the truth. No matter which way we spin that. But when we refuse to accept that, when we refuse to embrace the reality of that, then we have to have an alternative. Okay? If we disagree, and it's one thing to disagree over an opinion, but to disagree over truth, 2 + 2 is 4. We all know that. We learned that from the time we were 3 or 4 years old. 2 and 2 is 4. There is no other answer. None. However, a couple of years ago, New Creation, New Ideas of Teaching said, well, that might not be true. Maybe it can be 5 if that's what makes you feel better, or if that's what you can figure it out and make the argument for, then it can be 5. But that's not correct. Regardless of what style of math that you may or may not do, it's the wrong answer. Therefore, the one that makes the argument that says, well, no, I want it to be 5. What is your source? Jesus is trying to get us to understand, friends. See, truth is not always pleasant. Truth is not always what we want to hear. But it's absolutely always what we need to hear, because it allows us the opportunity to fix the issue. We see it all the time in some of these silly arguments that are going on around the world, and the answer is staring you right in the face, but yet still one aligns it with a political party, or one aligns it with this agenda or that agenda, and refutes that answer, refuses that answer, and gives another one. But what is the source of that new answer that is in rebuttal of the truth? So the challenge is right. What is your source? Where did that information come from? And it can't be like some of the answers that we hear today. Oh, that's from an anonymous source that we can't name. No, that doesn't work, because, again, if we don't know where it comes from, if someone hands you something to consume, and now you've never met this person before, and you've never seen this product before, it doesn't matter if it's something to drink or something to eat, the natural curiosity in our mind says, where did that come from and what's in it? Those are valid questions. In other words, what is the source of this item? Because if that drink was made from something down at the retention pond or something down at the refuge center, I don't want that. Okay, so I need to know the source of that. I need to know where that comes from. Jesus here is trying to get these folks that he's speaking to, and I believe that this message is extremely relevant right now. What is your source? So he says in the passage for today, in verse 41, he says, you do the deeds of your father. Now again, he is not talking about God, and he's not talking about Abraham, and I'll explain that. But they said to him, we're not born of fornication. In other words, our existence has not come from some type of sinful act. Our existence has not come out of something that is ungodly. It says we have one Father, even God. Now they've taken their arrogance even to a higher level, because now not only are they claiming lineage with the loins, if you will, of Abraham, but now they are outwardly saying, God is our Father. We represent God. But the book of Proverbs says God hates the shedding of innocent blood. Jesus was innocent of all things, most especially, in particular, their verbiage, their direction toward him of, well, you've spoken out of the way that we want you to speak. You've said things that we don't like, so you have to be killed. So Jesus presents them with the challenge when he's speaking to them. And he tells them, you're doing the deeds of your father. Now, what was he talking about? He references the word father as it pertains. He said, your deeds, their actions. Now, again, he's not speaking of Abraham, and he's certainly not speaking of God the Father. He's speaking of the enemy himself, the devil, the enemy, Satan, the bad guy, whatever name you want to give him, to be honest with you, because he's got a bunch of them. And the book of Revelation references that. He's got a lot of names. The dragon, Satan, Lucifer, the devil. He's got them all. What he's saying here is your actions, the things that you are doing, the things that you are saying, are only those things that are evil, those things that are deceitful, those things that are untruthful, those things that are hateful. And that could not possibly come from Abraham, and it most certainly does not come from God. So what is your source? Where is this coming from? Because you've claimed to be Abraham's, and now you're claiming to be God's. But that doesn't add up. That's 2 and 2 makes 5, and that answer is wrong. So what is your source? In other words, back up your claim, because what you're saying and what you're doing do not coexist. They don't add up. They don't work together. So he goes on, and he said to them, if, and again, remember I said in yesterday's lesson and in prior lessons before, if is one of the, if not the most important word in the Bible as it comes to preceding things that are vitally important for our life now and forever. He says, if God were your father. So that's calling that into question. In other words, that's what you say, but it's not what you do. So if God were your father, you would love me. Because we're supposed to love God and love one another, right? But he's saying, I came forth from God. I came from God. I was sent by God. I didn't come of myself. He sent me. And so if you were truly following, if you were truly living for God, your actions would be different. So what's your source? Where does this come from? Where is the feelings in the heart and the thoughts in your mind? Where is this coming from? Where is it? Where's your source? Because it's not where you claim it's from. Because if you truly got it, if you truly understood God, if this goes back to that word, then you would see, I'm from there. He sent me, and things would be so different. Don't we think that's still true right now? The fightings and the skirmishes and the petty arguments and the violence and the hatred and all the things that are going on right now that divide our world, friends, it has a spiritual connotation. It has a spiritual foundation. It has a spiritual implication. If we want to use all the big words, at the end of the day, it's all about good versus evil, light versus dark. That's the battle of life. Apostle Paul talks about it. Jesus talked about it. And he's saying it right here. He's saying, if you really understood what you claim, if what you were saying was real, we wouldn't be having this conversation, because you would get it. You would understand it. But the thing is, guys, they did. This is what's so hard to understand for me and most people that look at the way things were written. Nicodemus back in chapter 3 said, we know. When we know something and we don't do it, when we know something and we don't follow it, whether it's out of spite, whether it's out of rebellion, or whether it's out of ignorance, the bottom line is, it really does take us back to that question, what is my source? In other words, where does that come from? Where does that willingness to say, I'm digging in my heels and I don't care what happens because it's my way or no way? That doesn't make any sense. But we see it happening all the time. And sometimes in a very big scale, and sometimes it's at others' demise. People get hurt. People are being hurt right now because of poor decisions. What is your source? Is it you? Is it pride and arrogance and I'm just so determined to do it my way that I'm not willing to listen to anything else? Or I'm unwilling to listen to the truth even though it's sitting right in front of me? Friends, that goes back to the problem. It's a heart condition. And this is exactly what he was telling this group. He said, it's all about you. It's all about getting your way. And that never produces anything good. Never. Remember my illustration I used a few lessons back about the gentleman that I saw spend $20,000 on lottery tickets? He was determined in an X amount of day period, he was going to spend every red nickel of that money. Every penny. With no forethought of what the return would be. None. Zero. And it was $300. $300 versus $20,000. But in his mind, he was a winner because I did what I set out to do, even though everything and everybody said, don't do that. The world would be different if we'd get our source right. You see, friends, our source for truth, our source for direction, our example for life is found in the person of Christ. And that is why our relationship with him is so vital for life now and life eternal. It's a must. It goes together. It adds up. It produces an answer that's correct. So here in this passage, as we close today, he's just trying to get them to understand it. He's trying to get them to listen to this because he's saying, listen, the road that you're traveling down will not have a good end. It won't. I mean, it is the flashing red sign or flashing yellow lights or whatever that says the bridge is out. And it really, really is. It's not a joke. It's not a false warning. It's not fake news. It's really out. And if you are insistent, if you are determined that you're going to go down that road, you're going to find out. And you're going to learn your way was not the right way. What is your source? It's vital, friends, because your source of life should be the giver and creator of life. And John chapter 1 tells us that's Jesus. Nothing was created that he didn't create. And that includes me, and that includes you. What is your source? And even more important, who is your source? God bless you. I hope you have a good rest of the day. I hope you give that some thought. I hope you really, really give that some thought. Lord willing, I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good night.